Riding around the city with some brand new heat. Brand new car, brand new feet.
Mixtrap.com.
Brand new seats, brand new smell. Put out the roach light.
Helena, thank you so much for coming on my podcast.
You're so welcome, C-Babes.
Honestly, you are one of my most anticipated guests. I've wanted you on the podcast from the start, and I'm so serious about that.
Oh, my goodness.
Because you are such an icon to me and to the Syracuse community, and I don't think enough people know who you are or understand what you've done for Syracuse. So,
Wow.
Yes, let's start off by saying that Helena is, I refer to Helena as my yogi godmother because we met through her son, through my brother. Mm-hmm. They're best friends.
I was praying that day that I needed an assistant, and I just threw both hands up in the air. Can't do that right now, but threw them up and said, please send me someone. And like within the hour, Celine knocks at the front door, and I started asking her questions. She's this gorgeous young woman.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm like, she was not happy with her brother, but I was so happy with him that she had to pick him up. And asked her, and then it started from there. And when I got in the car today, guess what song played as soon as I got in the car?
Oh my gosh, what?
Boom, boom, pow.
Oh my gosh, I forgot that we love that song.
We love that song. We would go to Toronto, and
Yes.
we would just like, boom, boom. Literally.
Yes, we love that song when it came out.
And I had to laugh because I couldn't find my keys because my husband misplaced them, and this happened and that happened. And it started right from the get-go. As soon as I turned the engine on and back, I'm like, boom, boom. It started right then.
That is so funny.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
Yeah.
What a memory. That like unlocked something for me. Well, I first started working for you as your personal assistant, and that must have been 2008, 2009.
Oh, gosh.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think it was because I had just graduated high school, and I remember you were telling me, you're like, oh, I'm a yoga teacher and I have my own yoga clothing line. And I remember being like, I've heard of yoga before because I see all the celebrities doing it in the magazines, and that was my only knowledge of yoga.
Yeah.
And I went with you to a bunch of trunk shows to sell your clothing, which is still iconic for anyone who has a piece. Hold on tight because you're not getting it back.
Bamboo and sparkles,
Yep.
natural and glitter, just how we roll.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah.
That was my first time also owning ever bamboo cotton, which is so smooth and just like, in my humble opinion, one of the greatest, easiest materials that you can have for clothing.
It's so soft and cozy.
Yeah.
And it's still lasting. I can't
It's
get rid of it. Not that I want to, but I wear it going, wow, I've had this about 20 years. Oh, it feels like 20 years, and it still looks good. Mm-hmm. So
Amazing. Very innovative. You were definitely the first and only in Syracuse to be doing something like that, I feel. Like, I don't think that there are many people on your page. I would love to hear about what landed you in Syracuse, because you're not from Syracuse.
Oh, I am from Syracuse.
You are?
I grew up on the north side.
Okay. I wasn't sure. And I was
I
like,
went to Webster High School, Webster Grade School, Grand Junior High School, and Henniger High School.
Wow.
I went to nursing school, Lemoyne College. I never felt that I wanted to stay here. I never fit in with Syracuse. But I think everyone feels that way when they're growing up, that they don't fit in. But I thought that I was going to leave Syracuse, and it didn't happen. And then, when Glenn and I were dating and we kind of were going to get married, I said, look, when we go to Hawaii, if you're not going to marry me, then I'm going to stay there.
yeah.
So I threw it down, and I'm still here.
Wow.
But the beauty is I get to travel, and Syracuse isn't really a bad place. And
Yeah.
I love what your generation's doing for Syracuse now, because I've seen it at my age on the ups and downs. It was really thriving downtown when I was a little girl. Used to go down there all the time with my mom. It was an amazing place. And then it just went way downhill. And now over the last 10, 15 years, everyone who's in their 30s is really coming back to town and pulling things together and trying to revive, the city. So,
Yeah. What do you think has been something that's kept you here?
Well, obviously my marriage to my husband, who was a doctor. He's retired now, but my boys are here. 2 of my older boys are still here. We had a beautiful home and we just downsized, but just, that's a solid thing to keep you here, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if I wanted to move, I couldn't move. He had a practice. So we traveled, and we did a lot of great traveling, different countries. I was very fortunate and blessed to do that. I didn't grow up with that, The first time I was ever on a plane, I was 17. So, and since then, it's been full on.
Wow.
Planes, trains, and automobiles,
Right.
scooters, you name it. Rollerblades, roller
Right.
skates, whatever.
I know we definitely have both had our roller skating phase, and I'm hoping it will continue. And I think that's also a little part of Syracuse that is treasurable.
Yeah.
And I think you have always found, or at least shown me, cool things that have been happening around Syracuse in that way.
Right.
Like when we started, I think we both kind of picked up the roller skates around the same time, but I don't think I necessarily knew, but you were telling me about this place that you would go roller skating, and you're like, oh yeah, there's this place and this place. And I'm thinking to myself, what? Like I thought it was just my living room and like my driveway that I was going to be roller skating in, but
Right.
yeah. And then you go to these.
I'm going to get back to it.
Yeah, I know it's getting ready to be time.
Yeah.
So how did yoga find you?
Yoga found me at a great time in my life when I really, really needed it. But a girlfriend of mine gave me these 3 DVDs when I was in my mid-30s. And, it was really nice. I had a parent that died and just kind of navigating 3 kids and a busy husband and being not a single mom, but feeling at times like a single mom, with long days. And when the kids would go off to school, I would practice for 2 or 3 hours to these DVDs. And Brian Kess was my first teacher, and the positions they got themselves into, I was like, wow. And as a former gymnast, that really resonated with me. And then I found my teacher, Shiva Ray, and the rest is history. I just went full in. Don't I always?
Yes, you do.
I do.
Yes, you do.
If I like something, I'm full in.
Yeah.
No holding me back.
Exactly.
Right.
Speaking of Shiva Ray, for those who don't know, she's an icon, to say the least, in the yoga community.
Yeah.
And I was fortunate enough to see Shiva. Maybe I did say hello to her. I don't remember, but we went to a couple yoga journal conferences, which they don't
I think
do
it was in
those.
New York. No, they stopped those years ago.
Yeah.
So.
And they were a lot of fun.
Oh, we had so much
We
fun.
had so much fun. Yeah, we would travel, girls trip, and then we would sell clothes and meet really interesting people and find out. It was just this really neat yoga community.
Right.
People selling things. It was just fun.
I'm laughing because you say sell clothes, but what happened was I invented that yoga strap, and because it costs so much to go into these, places and travel and spend, a fortune there, I decided afterwards, well, I have to kind of add something else to it. And what do I love? Fashion.
Yeah.
And, then I did the portable charms because that was the spiritual journey that I'm on. So it was kind of like the physical practice of yoga with the straps, also the spiritual with the Vedivans, the portable charms, and then obviously we girls love our fashion. And you saw how the women were at the conferences. All Shiva's girls, we were all like girly girls.
Yeah.
And they loved the sparkles and the natural bamboo and the flowy pants. And it was really, I want to say it was a scene, but it was a sign of the times then.
Yeah.
And then as yoga started spreading more and more, there were more companies that would have these, big events. And then just less people went to each one. And that's why they canceled, the yoga journal shows.
Yeah.
So, which was kind of sad, but then change is inevitable, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So.
Well, let's talk about the yoga strap too, because that was certainly pivotal for me. And I mean, it was something that was reinvented. There is a yoga strap, but what made your strap different than the original?
So there were a couple different teachers, Patabi Joyce and Master Iyengar, and Iyengar used props. And so he had a strap, but every time I went to do this pose called bow pose, my lower back would cinch up and it would be just horrific and painful for me because I had sciatica back in the day. So in my yoga practice, I kept thinking, God, if there were a couple loops and I could hold my feet in them, hip width apart, and I'm a nurse, so I'm anatomy-wise, I'm really like a nerd. And I put the loops there. I had them sewn by a local shoemaker, and then they broke the first time I used them. And then there's that tenacity. I went back and I said, you're going to have to really sew these babies up. And so he did, and it worked. And I showed it to my teacher, Shiva, when we were in Boston, and she took the strap to her heart and said, you must do this. I had no idea how to do it.
Yeah.
And things just kind of came through. My brother-in-law's girlfriend worked for a company that worked for Ralph Lauren. There's that fashion. And she knew where to send me to National Webbing, and I had these straps made, and they came in, and then they were not right, all 10,000 of them, and they had to go back out to get redone. And then they came back in again right. Proper. So, there was a really fine line of keeping them where they would not break and how they would stay put. And people that have had their belts for the last, I don't even know, 15 years, they're still doing really well. Wow. And they do help with a lot of poses. So
yeah. Certainly. They've helped me so much.
And there's a little, it's hard to use a strap if you don't know what you're doing, but I would always do these go to yoga conferences and teach people how to use them, and a lot of the master teachers would use them in their classes. So.
Right. Wow. And how long did that journey last for you?
Well, I think I did the conferences for about almost 10 years.
Wow.
And I still have belts, and I actually still just sold a couple last week.
Really?
So I have it online for Viana, so I do. And I have sold a few of the portable charms as well.
Nice.
The Vedivans, which means Vedi means altar and Bahana means vehicle. And when I chose the word, I really love the Sanskrit, right? But also Sanskrit's one of the most ancient languages. And when you speak it, it's like it's a mantra. So the vibration of the word carries into the universe. So Vahana means vehicle, but in the true sense of vehicle, it means the vehicle of your soul. And Vedi is charm or murti, and it's not about an idolizing something, but it's about seeing the potential, like the seed, of where you can take your spiritual journey and your physical journey. And that's what they mean.
Look at that. I know you've always been so good and witty with your words and just writing articles, sending out newsletters. There's so much that you did even before you got your studio, that it was like almost like a digital studio that you are bringing to people, you know? And I want to talk about why you named the belt Hastapada.
So Hasta means hand, and Pada means foot. And there you go again. I had to do it with the Sanskrit. But when I was studying yoga 25 years ago, we were really into the Sanskrit language, which is one of the oldest languages. And now yoga is amazing in America, but they don't use a lot of the terms anymore. A lot of people do say mantra, which is saying, it's almost like not exactly a prayer, but like an affirmation, So in Kundalini and Hatha Yoga, we do say prayers. In Ashtanga Yoga, there's one of the most beautiful prayers that we would start each practice with, and I still say it to myself or say it out loud because it's just so beautiful. So it sets the ritual and sets the pace for your practice, but also when I named the belt that, I wanted people to understand that we could use this ancient language and just, yoga came from the West and it came from the East and it's here in the West, and we have to respect that lineage.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And at what point did you decide that you were going from Viana Yoga as your company, from fashion and being physically, here and there, to turning that into a studio? Because you have just released your studio now. So this is definitely a pivotal moment for you.
So when I started yoga 25 years ago, I said to my teacher, Shiva, I said, I want to take a training, but I don't ever want to teach. I just want to take it. And then after I did the training, I did my first 500 hours with her. I said, well, I want to have a yoga studio. And I kept coming up with all these different names for it. And I told her exactly how I envisioned it. In the middle of a town with water in the back, with easy parking for anyone that wants to come, so that it would be for everybody, even people in wheelchairs. And it manifested many, many years later. So,
And when was that you did your training with Shiva?
oh gosh, it was 24 years ago.
Oh,
And it
wow.
took me about almost 2.5, 3 years to do, the full-on training. But I was teaching at the time and also assisting her. We could teach without having that paper, We could teach back then because it was still kind of new around here.
Yeah.
We were the weirdo yogi people. Now it's kind of,
Yeah.
a normal thing like Pilates, right?
Yeah.
It's a little, I don't want to say it's watered down, but it's a little bit more Americanized now, just because more people can relate to it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you've been around to see the shift in what yoga was then to what it is now. What would you say, besides it being a little bit more Americanized, what does that really mean?
Well, I think the pros and cons is that we are finding through science that Ayurveda and yoga, Ayurveda is the sister science to yoga. So I also teach that and include that in my classes. But it is about longevity and how you take care of yourself. So when we have the scientific background to show us what happened 5,000 years ago, they knew all these things without the science. And I think that's amazing that we have that, and people are using different poses and articulating how to get into them differently now, which is very beneficial for us. But I also feel that we've lost some of the spirituality and the esoteric nature of yoga. And the biggest way to bring that into our practice is having it be breath-centered, a little bit of mantra. It's not a religion at all. It's really about the divine living within us. So it's a heart-centered practice because that's where our soul resides, right? Mm-hmm. So I think that that's the pros and cons of our yoga practice now. I would like to see a little bit more spirituality in class, but then again, you don't want people to shy away. It kind of happens on their own sometimes. So, you meet people where they're at, and that's the most important thing.
Yeah. Well, I definitely can say that the spirituality aspect of yoga has been certainly inevitable for me, but I also feel like that's because I was, really dedicated to my practice, and, so much of me coming into my spiritual awakening was because of you, and because I was able to meditate and I was doing yoga. And to be honest, none of my friends were doing that. And I don't think I could have placed anyone who would have been interested in doing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was kind of like a solo journey for me. But it just allowed me, that breath work really quieted things down in my mind and just allowed me to put my 2 feet back on the ground.
Right.
And it gave me so much perspective. I feel like when you're grounding yourself in that way, it's inevitable if you continue that you will experience life differently.
Right.
In the most amazing way possible. Mm-hmm. But that's just me.
Well, what you say that, so coming from where I came from with yoga, our practice back in the day, back bends, handstands, all these. So I can teach a really hard class, but I've also learned how to teach a class that's hard without doing those impossible things, but people have to want to work. And it's not even just a physical work, it's a spiritual and mental and emotional work, which gives you that resilience in life, because that's really what we need. Mm-hmm. And yoga can be anything and everything that you want. I mean, your walk anywhere can be yoga, right? As long as you're in the space, as long as you're in the present and you're linking your breath with everything and anything that you do.
Yeah.
I think one of the biggest things for me that I learned was I used to teach up at SU. And in the beginning, I would teach with the students. And of course, there were phones then. We'll talk about a time where there weren't phones, right, that we carried around. But I was really tough ass. Oops, sorry. But I was really tough. So anyway, I could say a lot more than that. But I would ask them in class, what would you like this class to be? And I was like, oh, I get to teach all these great yoga poses. They were all anxious and stressed. And so basically, I really incorporated yoga breathing and all these different techniques so that they could calm their mind. And that was the biggest thing. And the one thing I said to all of them, if you bring your phone in this room, you will fail this class. And I meant it. One day I had to walk up to like a 6'5" guy who had his phone in the room. And I said, you take that out of this room right now, otherwise you're done. And he did. But afterwards, I had a few students that came to my new yoga studio when I opened it, and they said that was like one of the most important things that they learned, to not be a slave to their phone. Now, granted, I love my phone too. It's over there. It's not too far away in a case that helps protect me from EMFs, right? But I really try to put it down and not pay attention to it during the day. And some of my happiest days are when I'm not looking at things. Mm-hmm. I'm fortunate because what I look at on my phone is everything I'm interested in, science and esoteric things. It's not always about who's doing this or eating that or going here or there. I get to really use my phone to learn and incorporate that. So that's a good thing about it.
Yeah, I know. That's the thing about yoga. It teaches you distance.
Right.
In your own self, but also from what's happening around us, you know? And it is such a strange time. And I count my lucky stars that I was here to experience life without cell phones in my youth. And, you know, of course, into my teen years is when the flip phones started happening. But, you know, it wasn't how it is now. Yeah. But, it is so important to give yourself time away from your phone. Yeah. And it's really tough, especially if you work from your phone. Mm-hmm. I mean, I do a ton of social media stuff, but there are times where I'm like, I'm disconnecting, I'm silencing, and like, that's that. Like, I think I've worked long enough in that realm to realize when I'm hitting a wall and I need to say stop.
Mm-hmm. And I'm enjoying that reprieve now, that I don't have to post every day and I don't have to, you know, it's actually so nice to be off of that.
Yeah.
It feels really good.
Yeah.
One of my students, I think one of the things that she said was the toughest about having children now is keeping them off of their phones as they got older. And then you just see people put things in front of their kids when they're young. And, you know, I sound like an old person now, right? But basically,
never that.
They used to throw us out. My parents threw us outside. We couldn't come inside from like 9 a.m. until noon. And then they threw us out in the afternoon. You could not come back to the house.
Survival skills.
Exactly. And drinking water from a water hose, right? Hysterical, right? But we did.
It's the little things.
Yeah. It's hard to imagine that. You know, the really cute little things on Instagram when the woman says, well, we drank from a hose, you know.
Right.
Yeah, we did, you know.
Yeah.
And we're still alive.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Yeah. Wow.
So life was different then, but also I think there was a freedom that you could be creative. And I think it's really hard to be creative when you're following everything all the time, you know.
Yeah. Well, now that you've finished working in the studio, or how long did you have the studio for?
Well, I had it for about 8 years, and it actually came at the perfect time.
That flew by.
I know, it did flow by. It flew right by. And I have to say, I enjoyed every single freaking minute of it. I loved it. I loved all the people that came in, all the new friends, the teacher trainings, the workshops, just all the special people that came through the doors. And then we had the tea lounge and coffee lounge. And there were people that did both, or people that just did the coffee and tea, and just making up all the recipes. There will be a cookbook to follow when I can get myself going. Right? I keep saying that. I'm going to have to do it.
I'll help you.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. My dream.
Dream. So I'm, you know, it was really such a great blessing. And I think one of the things that I heard someone say recently was that if you are blessed to do something that you love, you know, when you let it go, because I knew I was going to be done. You know, I'm going to be 67 this week, right?
Wow. Yes.
So, I don't feel it. I don't think of it. But I also, you know, I honor that I am. And I thought, you know what? It's me time. It's time for me. And I've enjoyed every moment of helping everybody else. And I knew at this particular time in my life, it was going to be, how long was I going to have that studio, right? I was just blessed that I was able to, and all the lives that touched me and we touched, and the wonderful teachers. It's been a blessing. And then it's a blessing to be able to hand it over to someone younger who's going to do their own thing and take it over and bring their own community and mesh it with ours. So I'm really happy about that.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I've certainly had so many wonderful memories being there. I did my 200 yogurt training, my yoga teacher training. And just the tea lounge, the coffee lounge. There's such a specific atmosphere that is so Helena coded. Right. It's fabulous. It's warm. It's inviting. It's natural. And I had a wonderful time there. Working there in the tea lounge early was some of my there's nothing like getting up, coming to work, and just knowing that the vibes are good. Right. The vibes are so good there. So many wonderful teachers. Your
vibe attracts your tribe.
Exactly.
But I think the other thing, too, is I was so fortunate to work in an environment and have an environment that was drama-free.
Yeah.
And just like attracts like. And that's an Ayurvedic term. But, what you put out there comes in. So if people don't resonate with you, that's something that you can't do anything about.
Yeah.
They'll find something else that they resonate with, and it doesn't take away how special you are or your business or anything else.
Yeah.
So,
well, I'm really excited to hear that you are in the works of making a cookbook, because you are also an incredible cook, an incredible chef, definitely an almond mom. Do you know what an almond mom is?
No, what's an almond mom?
You don't? I had a feeling you weren't going to know. An almond mom is someone who kind of sticks to like natural remedies and like, you do things a certain way, like for your kids.
Right.
But yeah, it's like someone who rinses with coconut oil instead of Listerine.
Yes.
That might be an almond mom. Yeah. But yeah, and I've learned so many almond mom things from you. I feel like I'm an almond mom. I have no kids, but I'm definitely going to be an almond mom.
You have a little kid?
I do.
You have a little baby boy?
Yeah. Little
Moo.
I know. I feed him sardines and
yeah. I see you are.
I know, but and you also feed your little ones.
Yep. They don't like sardines though, but
really?
Yeah. But we make them chicken and their little beef and their little shaved steak, and I throw little peas in, and one of them will kick the peas out. Jax.
I love that. Oh
it
my
is.
Goodness.
But one of my favorite memories, you would always come over, and let's see if you remember this. I had a big bowl in the kitchen, and I always put tons of fruit and stuff in that bowl. And we used to watch a show back then.
What show? Wait, why am I blanking? A part of me wants to say Top Model, but I know it's
Suki.
not. Oh my gosh, True Blood. True Blood. The way that True Blood had an absolute chokehold on all of us.
I know.
All of my friends.
Right?
It was the one thing that brought us all together.
But the goddess, I'm blanking on her name,
Lilith?
Wait, Lilith. It was Lilith.
Towards the way end?
Yes, but it was Lilith.
Was
and you
evil.
said, you remind me of Lilith because she always had all the fruit out. No.
Oh, in the beginning. Oh, wait, that crazy woman. But you are not crazy.
No, but it was just she had mounds of fruit out.
Yeah. Wait. It's so funny. Oh my gosh.
Well, you know how you remember different things that people say to you at different times? I remembered that because I just laughed because I love that show. And Lilith actually is really not evil in the history of is it's like Mother Earth, right?
Yeah. I don't think that her name was Lilith.
No,
though.
what was it?
I can't.
We'll have to remember.
Was it Marianne? I feel like it was Marianne.
Was it?
I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that her name was Marianne.
Okay.
But she also was something else. She was some other creature.
We'll have to look that up.
Yeah, we'll have to rewatch that. That would be so funny.
It was really good.
I did rewatch True Blood, I want to say, at some point, probably around 2021, and I was like, this show is unhinged. Like, things were happening left and right. Yeah, it was wild, and I often think about maybe the considerable trauma that some of these actors went through, because there was no episodes without blood or screaming.
Right.
None.
Yeah. No.
But True Blood was incredible. That was
I don't think I've seen Suki since then.
That's what I'm saying. I'm pretty sure, I could be making this up, but in my mind, I'm pretty sure she took a break. But also, she and the guy who played Bill were actually, I think they're married.
They were.
I think she had a baby maybe around that time.
Yeah.
Anyways, good for her. And speaking of television and film, I want to talk about your modeling career, because you, first of all, you are that girl. I have looked through your portfolio a couple times, and it is amazing. It is amazing. When did you start modeling? How did it become? And how long did it go on for?
Well, it went on for quite a while, but I started modeling when I was about 19. I was very shy growing up. I didn't, I had braces later in life. My brothers told me how skinny and ugly I was, so I believed them. And one of my girlfriends kept saying, you really need to start modeling. You need to do this. So I entered the Fabulous Face of the 80s. And
iconic.
Yeah. And so Doris Collins and another woman, Betty Lou had this thing. It was out in North Syracuse. And I met one of my best friends during this. But we did it, and I won. And I won a trip to New York to the Ford agency, modeling Ford agency, for an interview. So my other best friend, we both came in first and second. I used to never tell anybody who came in first or second, but basically I won. She came in second, but she ended up living in New York and being a hand model for a little while. Wow. I won the trip. My friend Camille came with me. They were so mean to me. I left there crying. And
in New York?
In New York at the Ford agency. I never even got past the first floor. And so I don't even want to say the things that she said, but basically it was exciting to go there, and then it was one of those huge, big letdowns. But I came back home, and I met some other woman in town and joined the Guild Fashionata, which was this whole thing. And I'll say it now, but I became their top model. And actually, I was just texting my friend Suzanne, because Suzanne and Renee ran the Guild Fashionata, and they put everything together. So back then, there was all this in-house modeling. There was Chapels and Day Brothers and Addis's. That's when downtown was still amazing. You could walk downtown, it was one great store after another. Sibley's. Wow. It was incredible, the fashion that was down there. And so I was working every week, and I was a nurse at the time, so I would go from being a nurse to modeling. It was just exactly what I loved.
Yeah.
The dichotomy of life, right? The polar opposites. Mm-hmm. And it was just a blast. And we would do all these fashion shows, and then they would leave these fashion shows up to me. There would be a motorcycle on the stage, and I would be in coconut things, or they would give me anything, because I would do anything. And it was part dancing, part modeling. But that's what it was like in the 80s. And, it was the 80s, definitely. Big shoulders, big hair, big everything, right?
Yeah.
And there was a group of us that model. It was really so much fun. And we did weddings. We did the, twice a year they would have these big wedding shows. SU used to have us do their shows. It would be all the crazy. And so it was fun. And then I even did modeling for, the lesser glamorous, in a really ugly pajamas or whatever.
The catalog stuff?
The catalog stuff.
That stuff is iconic.
It is.
They sell those magazines on eBay.
Right.
For a lot of money.
So, and the sad thing was, I worked a lot back then, and I did really well. And then I had someone that I kind of became the muse for. He moved from New York City to Syracuse, and he just decided he was going to have me do all these photos with him. So we would go to these places that were dilapidated, and where you could see syringes on the ground and people that did all these drugs. Wow. And we would go into these old buildings and do photo shoots and do all these things that he would submit. And afterwards, he went back to New York and worked. there again. So we had a blast with that. I just had so many great years modeling, and honestly, I modeled in my 30s, a little bit here and there, but things shifted. It was awful downtown after that. All the stores went under. Downtown went to the pits, and
Why did that happen?
I don't even know. I didn't really, all the stores went under.
Yeah.
And in-house modeling they started sending things to, it was cheaper to do everything, but you were in the 80s, right? That's when everyone made all that money, and then things kind of shifted, right? Mm-hmm. And so baby boomers, right?
Right.
Which I guess I'm not a baby boomer now that I found that out. I'm a Jones
I was
generation.
going to say, you're Gen X?
Generation Jones.
Generation Jones?
Yes, from 1955 to 1964.
Really?
Well, I don't know if it's a real thing, but there was, I don't remember I think he was a psychologist, a historian psychologist, and he came up with that term because my husband's a baby boomer, but I don't listen to the same music he listens to. I mean, they had 30 years for baby boomers? That's a lot. So this is keeping up with the Joneses.
Okay.
And it's a little bit different. So, we weren't, you could look it all up. It's really fascinating, but it kind of resonated with me. I'm like, that's interesting. I've never felt like a boomer.
Wow. Okay.
So
well, you already knew.
Generation Jones. Yeah. I just felt like, geez, how could I be the same generation as you?
Yeah.
You listen. What's that song from? I don't know that Beatles song. But who sings that? The Beatles. I go, they do. I never heard that song. And that's what would happen.
Yeah.
So, I'd be like, how do you? Well, because he's 7-8 years older, right? Mm-hmm. So it's another generation, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I remember the people who were 7 to 8 years older than me, when I was a kid, and thinking that they were so old.
Right.
But even though they weren't, but also old enough to have a very different perspective, you know?
I like to tell them I was in junior high school when you were in college.
Wow. When it comes to modeling, what was one of your most memorable moments with modeling? You had a lot, it seems.
I had a lot, and I don't even think, now to say, back then we didn't think about fur the way that we do now. And so I modeled for a company called the Jimas, and I loved these fur coats.
Oh, wow.
They were the warmest, softest, and then obviously over time, we learned how they got the furs and what they did. So I never talked about it because I was kind of embarrassed. But at the time when I modeled, of course I loved it. It was the most glamorous thing ever back then, Mm-hmm. And it just shows you how things shift over time, So when I landed that job, I had to fight for that job because I was new to modeling. And it was kind of like what we look at now. The guy that was going to hire me, and wanted me to do whatever. And I just said, no. I said, how can you give me a chance if I've never had a chance, right? Mm-hmm. Give me a chance to do this and I'll do it. But there were undertones at that time. There were a lot of things like that. I was a nurse in the hospital too. Things were different then. But, I learned how to work around it. We knew how to use it and we knew how to work around it too. Which you do too. So
do I
you
have
to
stay at home?
Getting into the modeling industry was like that back then as well as, obviously we can talk about the tone of what's going on in the world now.
Yeah. It's not a secret anymore.
No, it's not a secret. But we didn't talk about those things, and they didn't, it was kind of like, okay, here we go. This is going to happen, or they're going to try this, and we're not going to let it happen. Mm-hmm. You had to be really smart about how you went about those things.
Yeah.
But I got in on my own chutzpah and, stuck to my guns because I would have walked away.
Yeah.
And I did. So that was probably it wasn't the job per se. It was just how I got into it, which I was so proud of myself for, being able to see and foresee and giving this person a reason to have me do what my job and not, yeah.
Speaking of the times and how much things have changed, but also how much I think you and I both miss that time of, you know, no cell phones, and, you know, the fashion was different, and, you know, we're both watching The Love Story, JFK Jr. and Carolyn Bassett's.
Right.
And there was a specific nostalgia that just makes you wish you were still there. It was simpler. It was such a simpler time. But at the same time, things were getting more complicated than they ever had been in the media, maybe.
And even more so now. I mean, it
Yeah.
just keeps getting more chaotic.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And looking into your portfolio and seeing so many photos of you in the 90s, so iconic to say the least. And I'm so grateful because you have given me many of your hand-me-downs, and as this is one of them, one of my faves.
You wear it so well.
I wear it all the time, and your style is so incredible, and you've got a couple really just show-stopping pieces. Actually, more than a couple. How would you say that your style has shifted from then to now?
Well, obviously, and you know, I was stylish in my 20s, but I probably didn't really pick it up until my 30s, and I can afford to buy. But I went through a designer phase, right? My first big designer outfit was Donna Karan. And Christy Brinkley had the same gold leather jacket. And then I had to get the matching black dress that went with it. And I always got like little sets, and I would try to buy things on sale when we would travel or wherever. And I became more obsessed with it. Fashion wasn't as quick then. So when something was in style one year, it would take 2 years to come out to regular. Now you can buy something that seems trendy, like in a minute, in a snap. I'd snap my fingers, but if I could. So my new nails. Anyway, but that was one of the first things, and that just started the whole process. But I loved clothes, and I'm a Pisces. I love being in that realm, that dreamy realm, and I always dressed how I wanted to dress. It didn't matter what other people thought, or if I love beauty, and Venus is very high in my chart, and Venus is the goddess of beauty and love, and it's about external beauty, but it's about internal beauty too. And so I would just find these exotic clothes and buy them. I went through my Gucci phase. That was when Carolyn Bassett was around. I went through Calvin Klein and Gucci then, and then I went through my Roberto Cavalli phase, which probably was at the time the most me, things shifted. And I loved being like a chameleon when I dressed. One day it would be very simple and sophisticated, and then the next. But we could go out to dinner twice a week, and I could wear all that.
Yeah.
And, we would, like you would say, oh, you would wear that to a wedding now or to a cocktail party. That's how we dressed when we went out. And that's actually what I miss the most, is that you go out for food and it's meh, right? It's not even that great.
Well,
right? Some places are wonderful.
Yeah.
But for the most part, people go out, and there's so many more restaurants now than there used to be. But it was kind of a scene to go out and be seen. And also, we would go out to dinner at 8 o'clock at night or 9. We would, even in my 30s, we would be out till 2 in the morning. We had fun. It seemed like there was more things to do then. Now, maybe I'm missing it at my age and I don't see it around here, but I don't see that with my kids or younger generation. There's not as much.
You don't see it. I don't see it either.
You don't either?
No, I don't. Yeah.
But I even just saw that Tampa is they're not going to allow pajamas at their airport because people travel in pajama pants.
Seriously?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't
saw that in
know
the news
that.
yesterday. I saw just a really quick thing about Tampa, no pajama pants. So it's like, okay, what's going on here? And there was something. Sorry.
Anyways, yeah.
Anywho, but I miss dressing up. So for now, I have to add those little elements, right? I might have my jeans on and my black shirt, but it's got a little something going, Coats in Syracuse, if you want to look stylish, you have many coats, and you can have the same couple pair of jeans or pants. Because what do we see in Syracuse when we go out? Coats.
Black.
Yeah.
Black coats.
Yeah.
Black coats.
So,
Yeah.
And you wear all the colors, pink, red.
Highly inspired by you.
Yeah.
Highly
Animal print, my favorite.
Yes. Speaking of, we have a token of greatness in this room with us. And it's not either of us. But I remember years ago you told me, or you were cleaning out your coat closet and you're like, I think I'm going to get rid of this one. I think I'm going to hold on to this one. And you're like, oh, this one. And you told me Carolyn Bassett Kennedy had this coat, this exact same coat.
Right.
And I was shook. When you bought this jacket, did you buy it because Carolyn Bassett Kennedy wore it?
Yes and no. At the time, I didn't know that she had it. I tried it on in this really amazing store in Miami and near Bal Harbor, and I ended up buying a beautiful Dior gown that day too. But I found this coat, and I just fell in love with it. I tried it on. It was heavy. It was substantial. It was obviously my favorite color, animal print. And it was a trench, so it was a classic style too. And I went to go purchase it, and the girl at the counter said, Carolyn Bassett Kennedy has this coat.
Oh my gosh.
Now, I don't know about the facts of this, but she said there weren't that many of them made. And so afterwards, I would see pictures of Carolyn Bassett with John walking the streets in New York with his coat on. And, just kind of filed it in my, they passed away, and actually a friend of mine knew the family the day they were at the house. So, but it was just heartbreaking what happened. I mean, I bought the jacket. Obviously, I bought the jacket on sale too because it was summertime. And
of course,
who does that? But it was a very expensive. Yes, obviously, I always do that. You buy it off season when it's on sale if you really love it. And for me, it was a classic piece. And then I would see her. We didn't have the phones to look at everything, so you would see it in a magazine, and I would clip pictures out of the magazine. I'd be like, "That is definitely my jacket."
Yeah.
And so after they passed away, which was just awful. My heart sank. But every time I would put that coat on after they passed away, I would think of her. I really did. And Sotheby's did something where they were selling coats for hers, but it didn't look like that coat. And I mean, you've seen the picture of her coat. You see my coat.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I wore that coat out to dinner the other night, and my girlfriend sent me a picture that was in Harper's Bazaar of her with John in that coat.
Yeah.
And she goes, "This is your coat." Well, not my coat, it's her coat. But yes, it's my coat. But it's just a beautiful coat.
It really is. And it's incredible because right now, her fashion is being talked about everywhere. And it's really interesting too because, she had such simplistic chic style.
Yeah.
She didn't need much.
No.
And that was also a really wonderful thing about the 90s is that there was, this one side where it was like loud and kind of like flashy colors.
Right.
But once it kind of like got more towards the 2000s, I felt like things became a little bit simpler.
It did. And that's how fashion goes, right? So the pencil skirts, the simple tops, the boots with, she just, everything had, she picked it purposefully, but made it look effortless.
Yeah.
Basically her hair became her trademark, right? The way her hair was, and just maybe her little purse that she carried, or in most of the pictures you see with her with this coat on, with jeans and black shoes and a black, turtleneck. But she had that, she made that glamorous image out of simplicity. So I think the clothing that she picked were very reminiscent of Calvin Klein.
Yeah.
But also Gucci followed suit back then too. And that's when I was buying some of that.
I love that you have this mental archive because whenever you give me something, you always tell me the background of it. And I think it's so neat how, you bought these things because they were like of the time of these moments that these wonderful women showcased. Like even the Salma Hayek butterfly top.
Right.
What can I say?
But it was just fun because I would buy things and then I would see it on someone who I loved, right?
Yeah.
And it was so exciting to see that.
Yeah.
But I always had I always had the taste for Hollywood glamour, although I would never be an actress or be in a movie or do anything like that. But I always had that kind of taste, and I would wear it. I didn't care what people said or thought. That was who I was, and I was true to myself. Now I think, I don't tone it down, but I feel at this point in my life, I want to be a little bit more comfortable. And, they say, when you're over, well, they used to say over 50, 60, 70, whatever, but, you can wear purple, wear these wild hats. And sometimes I do. Sometimes I feel like I'm going to wear this and I don't really care.
Yeah.
And then sometimes I'm like, I think I'm going to tone this down a little bit today. And depends on where I'm going or who I'm with or whatever. So.
Well, that's what I love about your style is even if it is toned down, it's still so Helena. It's like only Helena could be wearing this. Like even this outfit, I'm like, it's the details. It's, the way the sleeves are. It's your earrings that I love that you wear now, your staples. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. I love your style. I've always loved your style. It's been hugely inspirational for me, who's someone else who loves fashion. So can't thank you enough.
And you wear it so well.
I try.
And I love how you mix your style in, modernize it. But I think what's beautiful is that it plays, your mom was just amazing in how she had her other business. So you really understood the value of, I think you understand the value of antiques more than most people your generation, or the value of clothing from different eras, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's really very interesting because a lot of people don't even think about that or see that.
Truly, yeah. She was a pioneer, and I learned so much about fashion through her. And actually was thinking about the other day, I was watching Love Story and just thinking about Jackie O and how many different times she's been portrayed. And I remember these Jackie O paper dolls that I got, when I was a little girl that my mom got for me, and I would dress her up in her different outfits. And I remembered these outfits. They were iconic to me, and it's incredible. The archive that she had and what I learned from her. Yeah. Right. Both antiques and clothing. Yeah. So, yeah. I've had some wonderful teachers, to say the least. So,
good.
Yeah.
My mom loved Jackie O.
Really?
Loved Jackie O. And I probably, if Carolyn had lived, she would have been my person because that was around the age.
Yeah.
But Jackie O was just, my mom would talk about her all the time. And she kind of even looked like her and dressed like her. So I think everyone has that iconic image of someone. I think there's so many people now, it's really difficult to have that because everything is just meshed, right?
Yes.
It's not...
Yeah. There's so much likeness right now. And actually, because of this, the JFK love story, Carolyn Bassett love story, I saw this TikTok of all of these girls, these college girls in New York running to get this headband. The plastic marble. Yeah. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
And, I'm reading the comments and people are like, she would have hated this. And people are like, hey, like, guys, maybe challenge yourselves to find a unique style. Yeah. And it's just so interesting, even being so close to campus, I'll see a pack of girls all wearing, jeans, sneakers, and a black top and a leather jacket. And that is their uniform. I can't imagine wanting to be just like everyone else.
Right.
I don't think I've never been that way. I guess I'm biased, but.
No, I hear you. I'm the same way.
Yeah.
But it takes time. And I think people find comfort in when they're young, being with the crowd. I mean, it's very difficult to be ahead of your time. It's very difficult to be like Punch, Punch the monkey, right? But look at how well Punch is loved.
Poor Punch.
Poor Punch. But I'm just saying, it's very difficult. There was something about Punch that was, not accepted. Yeah. So I think a lot of us, that's why we love cute little Punch so much, because he wasn't accepted.
That's actually a wonderful comparison. Poor Punch.
I love Punch. Poor Punch. Punch is going to be one tough little monkey.
Yeah.
Yeah. No one's
Yeah.
going to mess with Punch.
It's just so funny how the whole world is like on this page. Like there's not.
Look at us. I know. And then the algorithms, I'm like, there's Punch again.
Yeah.
I shouldn't like this, but I really do. Bing.
I know. Oh my gosh.
And that
what a
monkey.
story.
And then really, they gave him a new one. How did they not know that?
Oh my gosh.
Sorry, you never thought you'd be talking about Punch.
It's just so funny because it's so true. Like,
And then him picking out, taking
Yeah.
care of. Oh, I'm just telling you, I'm in love with that little monkey.
I know,
But why
we
are we
are.
so in love? Because he's the underdog and because
Yeah.
nobody accepted him. And, you know,
we love an underdog story.
we really do.
Yeah.
We really do.
Well,
But he has this fashionable monkey now.
he
so,
does.
Yeah.
That monkey. Oh my gosh. My sister got the monkey.
Did she?
Yeah.
Wait, who was it from again?
I think IKEA.
IKEA, yes.
Yeah. And I was like, that was really smart on their end.
Really?
I mean, who
Yeah.
wouldn't want Punch's mother monkey?
Right. Oh my gosh, I should have thought of that. That would have been a great gift, baby gift. Darn. They probably don't have them anymore.
Yeah, who knows? Who knows? All right. Well, would you like to pick from the deck of character?
Of course I would.
Okay. It's right up there. If you want to grab it between in the jungle, in the mini jungle. Angsty teen.
What is it?
Angsty teen.
What's that?
Do you want to pull two more?
Okay.
Cauldron.
Ooh.
Gun. Wow. What a pull.
Yeah?
Does this resonate with you at all?
I do not even know what they mean.
They can mean whatever you want them to mean. Sometimes if you look at these images and they might mean something to you that I might not see. But
Well, I think I feel like an angsty teen. After selling the yoga business, I'm dancing again and doing all these fun things. Everybody's concerned about me that I'm okay. And I'm like, I'm fine. You know,
Yeah.
it's a little different, but I'm really enjoying myself. So I do feel a little bit like a teenager.
Yeah.
I've been skiing and having all these fun things. Cauldron, I've been cooking a lot lately, but I'm also cooking up a few new things. So
Okay.
I'm definitely cooking up a few new things.
all right.
So that's that. And then the gun. This is very interesting.
Yeah.
The gun. All I keep thinking of is fun. I'm pointing a laser gun at something fun. But other than that, I don't know. I've not.
I love that. I feel like the gun to me is sometimes like, I mean, it's similar in my mind to the death card where I'm like, something needs to be gotten rid of, or
Yeah.
like we're done with something, it's coming to an end. But also I love how it represented something fun to you
Yeah.
in the way that it's like, paintball or whatever,
Yeah.
laser gun. That's fun. I remember that time in the 90s. That's
Yeah.
the last time I played with a laser gun. But also the angsty teen too. I'm definitely seeing that in you in the way that you are enjoying yourself. And I
Yeah.
can tell like there's certainly something has lifted.
Yeah.
And you're just doing you.
Yeah.
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 I feel like kind of a teenager,
Yeah.
What am I going to fall in love with now? What am I going to do next?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
You know.
Yeah. And then the cauldron, I mean, never
Cauldron.
not.
We're always making
Yes.
something.
Never not.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just to bring this up again. I'm so excited that you want to make a cookbook. I will be right there to take
Viana cookbook.
pictures and videos because you are one of my favorite chefs. Truly. So many of your things
Then
I
the
could.
secret recipes will be out. The dirt balls.
There are so many. There are a handful of recipes that I'm like, oh my gosh, Helena, like, can I have this? And you're like, I can't give it away. It's not time, not happening right now. But I will say, just off the top of my head, and of course, a lot of them are desserts, but the date cakes, the cherry cookies, the cherry chocolate cookies, which I do have the recipe to, thank God. And what else do I love? There's so many things. Your salads.
Yeah, I'm making a date cake this week for my birthday.
Really?
Yeah.
What are you going to do for your birthday?
I don't know yet, but I'm just making a date cake.
Say less.
You know, as teens, we don't plan anything.
Exactly. Why would you? Well, thank you so
you.
much.
This was fun.
This was fun.
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Helena.
Oh, thank you, Seabass.
Riding around the city with some brand new heat, brand new car, brand new feet,
Mixtrap.com.
brand new seats, brand new smell. Put out